What if your mind was never inside your brain? What if your thoughts didn't start in your head but somewhere else entirely? What if your memories weren't yours? A woman wakes up from a dream so vivid it feels more real than her waking life. She saw a place she's never visited, spoke a language she doesn't know, and felt emotions that don't belong to her. Weeks later, she stumbles upon that exact place on a stranger's postcard. It exists, and she remembers every detail. This isn't fiction, and she isn't alone. All over the world, people are experiencing what traditional neuroscience can't explain: synchronicities, intuition, precognition, healing that defies medicine, memories that stretch beyond time and biology. For decades, we were told that the mind is a byproduct of the brain, that consciousness arises from neural activity like steam from boiling water. But that theory is breaking, because the deeper we explore, the more we find evidence that the mind may not be local, that it's not in the brain, but through it, like a signal through a radio. What if your brain is not a generator of consciousness, but a receiver of it? This is the foundation of the holographic mind theory, supported by minds like David Bohm, who saw the universe as a vast, unfolding hologram, and Carl Pribram, who revealed that the brain operates like a frequency decoder, not a memory vault. Rupert Sheldrake speaks of morphic fields, information fields that hold memory beyond the body. Lynne McTaggart proves, through collective intention experiments, that focused thought alters physical reality. Massimo Citro shows us that our bodies respond not just to chemistry, but to vibrational information, the code beneath biology. And these ideas are not new. Ancient Vedic texts called it Akasha, the invisible matrix that holds the memory of everything. Egyptian priests spoke of Mat, the field of cosmic order. Greek philosophers described the noetic realm where true knowledge lives. Shamans call it the spirit web. And today, physicists call it the quantum field or zero-point field. What they all point to is this: there is a field. It is alive and you are part of it. This video is not a lecture, it's a mirror, a remembrance. Because the moment you realize you're not a mind trapped in a skull, but a field of consciousness projected into form, your entire sense of self begins to dissolve and rebuild. You are not here to watch this. You are here to wake up inside it. You've been taught that your brain is the control center of reality, that everything you think, feel, remember, originates from inside your skull. But what happens when the mirror cracks? When the very organ you were told holds your mind reveal that it might not? There are people walking this earth right now with barely half their brain mass intact. Neurological anomalies, conditions like hydrocephalus where fluid fills the skull and compresses brain tissue into a thin layer, yet these individuals speak, solve math problems, play instruments, fall in love. How is that possible? Where is their mind? Consciousness does not reduce so easily. What if the brain is not a storage unit, but a receiver? This idea, once mystical, now resonates with neuroscience and quantum theory. Carl Pribram, the neurophysiologist who studied memory and perception, showed that the brain operates more like a frequency analyzer than a computer. It doesn't contain your thoughts. It interprets information fields that exist beyond the skull, like a radio that catches the music already in the air. And if that's true, then your thoughts, memories, even your sense of self may not be bound to your biology. They may be broadcasted from the quantum field itself. This is where the holographic mind comes in. Physicist David Bohm proposed that reality is structured like a hologram, where every part contains the whole. That means your mind could be a local reflection of a non-local field, a singular frequency in the great song of the cosmos. In this model, the brain is like a mirror, but it doesn't reflect you. It reflects the field that you are tuning into at this moment, and that mirror can break. When it does, strange things happen. You start having dreams that later unfold in real life. You sense someone's presence before they speak. You remember something you never learned. You feel emotions that belong to someone else. If the brain is not the source of consciousness, then those experiences are not anomalies. They are evidence. So the question isn't, is the brain the generator of consciousness? The question is, What happens when it stops filtering what's already there? The language of the invisible. You've spoken this language before, not with your mouth, but with your presence, with your focus, with your emotion. You've walked into a room and felt tension before a word was said. You've thought of someone, and your phone lit up. You've whispered a desire into silence, and days later, the answer came. How? Because beneath what we see, there is a language made not of letters but of vibration, not sound but intention, a field that listens, responds, and remembers, not metaphorically but literally. Lynne McTaggart, in collaboration with scientists, conducted what became known as the intention experiment, a global test to see if focused thought could alter reality. Groups of people from different continents focused on growing seeds faster, lowering crime rates, energizing water, and the results: statistical shifts, changes that defy randomness, observable proof that consciousness affects matter. This is not wishful thinking. It's the science of the quantum field, a subtle informational fabric, often referred to as the zero-point field, where particles aren't fixed but respond to observation. The field is not passive. It interacts. Thought, especially when charged with emotion, becomes an instruction to the hologram. Ancient traditions understood this. Vedic mantras were not poetry. They were sonic keys. Egyptians carved symbols not as art, but as frequency transmitters. Hebrews encoded sacred names with geometric power. These weren't myths. They were interfaces, primitive technologies for programming the holographic mind. Because this field doesn't respond to logic, it responds to coherence. When you speak with alignment between thought, feeling, and focus, the signal is clean, sharp, direct. The field doesn't interpret your words. It reads your resonance. This is why affirmations sometimes fail. You can repeat "I am abundant" all day, but if your nervous system screams fear, that's what the field registers. That's what gets mirrored back. So your power isn't just in what you say, it's in what you mean, and how deeply that meaning vibrates through every cell of your being. Once you begin to understand this, language is no longer communication. It becomes creation. And if that's true, what else have you been speaking into the field without knowing? Have you ever known something without knowing how? A language you've never studied, a place you've never been, a feeling that didn't belong to the moment. You call it intuition, déjà vu, or instinct, but what if it's something else? What if memory doesn't live in your neurons, but in a field that surrounds you, saturates you, and holds not just your story, but the stories of all who came before you? This is where Rupert Sheldrake's theory of morphic resonance breaks the mold of conventional neuroscience. He proposed that memory isn't stored in the brain like files in a cabinet. Instead, every experience once lived leaves a vibrational imprint in a shared field. And once that pattern exists, it becomes easier for others to tune into it, not through education, but through resonance. This is why, in controlled studies, rats who learned to navigate a maze in one country made it easier for rats in other countries, who'd never seen the maze, to learn it faster. It's why newly synthesized chemicals begin to crystallize more easily over time. It's why certain habits, behaviors, and breakthroughs emerge simultaneously in different parts of the world. The field remembers. This challenges everything we assume about learning, about identity. What if that instinct you feel isn't yours? What if it's a field echo, a memory stored outside the skull? Ancient cultures never believed memory was internal. The Akashic records of Vedic tradition, the dreaming tracks of Aboriginal tribes, the ancestral web of African shamanism, each speaks of a memory field, a cosmic archive you are born into, not to start from scratch, but to inherit everything. Your brain, then, is not the container of memory. It is a tuning device, a decoder. And when you remember something, you may simply be synchronizing with a pattern that already exists in the field. This explains spontaneous talents, childhood prodigies, ancestral traumas that ripple through generations, why some knowledge feels like remembering, not learning, and why in moments of deep silence you feel something vast moving through you that your biography could never explain. So the question is not, what do you remember? The question is, what memories are you already inside of? without even knowing. Emotion as geometry. There's a reason why you can walk into a room and feel something before anyone speaks. Why heartbreak feels like a collapse and joy like expansion. Emotions are not just psychological states, they are patterns of resonance, geometries encoded in the field. When you feel, you're not simply reacting. You are generating form, you are sculpting reality. Modern science has begun to catch up with this ancient knowing. The HeartMath Institute has shown that the human heart emits an electromagnetic field measurable several feet beyond the body. And this field shifts depending on your emotional state. Coherence, when the heart and brain align, generates a rhythmic, harmonious pattern. Stress scrambles it. Gratitude organizes it. But the ancients already knew this. In temples carved with sacred geometry, they created shapes that matched the inner frequency of peace or reverence. Cymatics, the science of how sound creates form, reveals that sound waves organize particles into geometric patterns. Emotions are no different. They have waveforms, frequencies. And those frequencies shape the quantum field that responds to coherence. This means that your emotions are not private, they are broadcasts. When you feel anger, it distorts the informational field around you. When you feel love, it brings symmetry and resonance. Your emotional state is like a code, imprinted into the holographic matrix of reality, shaping what you attract, repel, and experience. Massimo Citro, in his studies of vibrational medicine, goes even further. He suggests that emotions can imprint informational structures into water, and since your body is mostly water, you become a living archive of everything you've felt. Trauma, joy, fear, they're not just memories, they're stored frequencies, patterns that loop until consciously restructured. Have you ever felt stuck in an emotional cycle that repeats? That's not weakness, it's a field distortion, a geometrical imprint seeking resolution. And the only way to rewrite it is not with more logic, but with a new vibration. Emotion is the interface, the keyboard, and your intention is the signal that types into the code of the universe. You are not just experiencing emotions, you are creating architecture, inner and outer, with every feeling you allow or resist. So the question isn't what are you feeling? The question is what are you programming with that feeling? Ghost frequencies. There are places you enter and feel an inexplicable weight, as if the air itself is carrying a memory. Old houses, battlefields, sacred temples, hospitals. Sometimes you walk into a room and feel grief that's not yours, or rage that doesn't belong to anyone present. What you're sensing are not spirits in the classic sense. What you're sensing are phantom fields, emotional imprints left behind, looping in time. This is not fantasy, it is physics. Just as a scent can cling to fabric, emotion can cling to space. When a moment is intense enough, trauma, ecstasy, ritual, violence, it leaves a residue in the informational field of that environment. It's not visible, but it's real. The field stores it, and sensitive organisms, like you, can pick it up. Massimo Citro speaks of ghost frequencies, vibrational patterns that persist after their source has vanished. They are echoes without a voice, geometry without a source. His work with vibrational medicine and water memory shows that trauma doesn't just stay in the mind. It transfers through fields, storing itself in tissues, objects, even rooms. Water is especially receptive. As he says, water is the great messenger. And since we are mostly water, we are also transmitters and receivers of this hidden language. There are now laboratories able to imprint information onto water through frequency alone. The same process happens in us, emotionally. Every time we feel, we encode. Every time we return to a place with history, we decode. You may have inherited these imprints not just from your parents, but from your lineage, your land, your collective. Trauma loops like an unfinished song until someone, through attention, through healing, resolves it. Sacred rituals, chants, prayer, and focused intention are not just symbolic. They are field-coding tools. This is why indigenous tribes cleanse spaces after death. Why ancient rituals include sound, fire, and smoke. These were early technologies for transmuting fields. Now imagine how many unseen programs you might be carrying. Patterns of fatigue, anxiety, fear, not arising from your experiences, but from a residual frequency you've absorbed. The body aches without medical cause. The heart breaks without current grief. You feel lost without knowing why. You're not broken. You're attuned, and perhaps, just perhaps, you're the one who was born to transmute what was never yours to carry. So ask yourself, what are you feeling that didn't begin with you? And more importantly, what will you choose to release back into the field? The dreaming field. You wake from a dream that felt more real than waking life. You saw someone you've never met. You visited a place you've never been. And days or years later, you stand in that place. You meet that person. And something in you whispers, I've been here before. This is not coincidence. This is the field dreaming through you. What if your dreams are not random firings of a resting brain, but transmissions, messages sent across time, emotion, and memory by your subconscious field? Modern neuroscience tries to reduce dreams to mental housekeeping, but the deeper you look, the more that explanation falls apart. In the ancient traditions, dreams were not illusions, they were maps. In Vedic culture, dreaming was a higher realm of perception. In Aboriginal Australia, the dream time wasn't about sleep at all. It was about the timeless space where the world was sung into being. And for Carl Jung, dreams were portals into the collective unconscious, echoes of a shared symbolic language that transcends culture, history, and even the individual. The holographic mind suggests this. What you dream, you tune into. Not from inside your skull, but from the informational field where all memories, archetypes, and future potentials already exist. Just like a radio doesn't invent the music, your dreaming mind doesn't invent the symbols. It tunes into frequencies, morphic fields that Rupert Sheldrake would say organize patterns of form and behavior over time. This is why symbols appear in your dreams that you've never consciously encountered. Why ancient myths echo in your personal sleep stories. Why sometimes a dream feels like a memory you forgot. Because in a way, it is. Not a personal memory. A field memory, stored in the Akasha. In the zero-point field, in the infinite lattice where time folds and space listens, scientific cases abound. Elias Howe invented the modern sewing machine after dreaming of tribal warriors with spears that had holes at the tip. Dmitry Mendeleev saw the entire periodic table in a dream. Neuroscientist Otto Loewi designed a Nobel-winning experiment after a dream handed him the exact steps. These are not stories of random genius. They are examples of resonant consciousness aligning with the informational field. Your dreams are not hallucinations, they are downloads. So the next time you dismiss a dream, ask, what if this is not from me, but through me? What if this dream is a key, coded, symbolic, waiting to be remembered into form? The body as projection. Your body is not a machine, it is a crystallized vibration, a frozen symphony of the field. What you call flesh is a hologram, light condensed by information, form shaped by resonance. The more we study consciousness, the more this becomes undeniable. Massimo Citro, in his studies of informational medicine, describes the body not as a biochemical reactor, but as an orchestra guided by an invisible conductor, the informational field. This field contains the basic code of the universe, a non-local blueprint that tells your cells how to behave, how to organize, how to heal, or how to malfunction. This is why two people with identical genetics can age completely differently. Why spontaneous remissions occur. Why some illnesses appear without physical cause, then disappear without pharmaceutical explanation. Because the source isn't only in the body, it's in the field behind the body. Rupert Sheldrake's concept of morphic resonance supports this. The patterns of physical form are not locked into DNA. They are tuned into by organisms, each one drawing from a field of memory and form. You don't just inherit genes, you inherit resonance. The holographic mind reveals that the body itself is a projection, not metaphorically but literally. Carl Pribram showed how brain tissue processes information like a hologram, not storing images in a fixed location, but distributing them across the field. David Bohm, in parallel, argued that what we see as material reality is just the explicate order, a surface illusion of deeper enfolded information. What happens when the projector, your consciousness, changes its signal? The hologram of your body shifts, and healing happens. Take the placebo effect. A sugar pill can cause real physiological change when the belief field is aligned, but placebo is not a trick, it's a key. A reminder that what you believe alters the information code your cells obey. Take the case of phantom limb pain. Patients feel sensations in limbs that no longer exist. Because the field pattern still exists, the hologram still runs the program. Or look at energy healers, shamans, spiritual practitioners who shift internal states and watch pain vanish, tumors shrink, chronic illness melt into remission, not through molecules, but through conscious intention, which Lynne McTaggart's research shows can influence biological systems even at a distance. The implications are staggering. You are not made of matter. You are made of memory and light, of code and coherence. You are the field expressing itself in skin and breath. And when you shift your inner frequency, the projection must realign. Because the body does not lead the field leads the body. The ancestral Akasha, before written words, before civilizations etched their myths in stone, there was already a memory. Not held in scrolls or libraries, but suspended in the silent dimension mystics called Akasha. The word itself, Sanskrit in origin, means ether, or that which holds all things. But it is more than poetry. It is a field of information. In the Vedas, Akasha is described as the primordial substance, the space from which all elements emerge. It is the first element, not air, not fire, but the container of all. In ancient Egypt, it echoed through the concept of Ma'at, the universal order, the intelligence that governs not only nature but moral balance and memory. In Plato's philosophy, it appears as the world of ideas, perfect, timeless forms from which our reality is but a shadow. These traditions, separated by oceans and centuries, were all pointing to the same thing, a field of consciousness that remembers everything. Modern science, once allergic to such notions, now begins to catch up. Today, this memory field is mirrored in quantum physics as the zero-point field, a sea of fluctuating energy and information that pervades all space. Physicists like Ervin Laszlo argue that the zero-point field is the scientific face of the Akasha, a cosmic memory field that stores not only energy, but history, thought, and potential. It's not metaphor, it's mechanics. Rupert Sheldrake's morphic fields provide the framework. Behaviors, forms, instincts, even ideas do not start anew with each generation. They are passed on invisibly, like wireless signals, through resonance. You don't learn everything. You remember what the field already holds. This is why ancestral trauma can echo through descendants who never knew the story. Why rituals of remembrance awaken buried emotions. Why you sometimes have inexplicable affinities for places, eras, symbols. You are not only a child of your parents, you are a child of the field. And Massimo Citro's work with information transfer shows it's not just in the psyche, it's biological. He transferred the healing effect of a substance not through chemistry, but through waveform. What we call healing then is often reconnection, a realignment with a deeper memory already inscribed in the Akasha. Lynne McTaggart calls it the field of intention. David Bohm called it the implicate order. The mystics simply called it the record. And here's the revelation. The Akashic Field is not just something you access, it is something that moves through you. You are not a disconnected individual, you are a frequency in a chorus that began before you were born. A pattern within a pattern, awakening to itself. The geometry of inner knowing. Sometimes you just know something. No logic, no steps, just a sudden, complete clarity that defies explanation. It might be a decision you make in seconds that turns out to be right, a sense of danger before anything happens, or the eerie recognition of a person you've never met. We call it intuition. But what if this knowing isn't random? What if it's not even internal? What if it's geometry, harmony resonating in the field? Sacred geometry isn't just the obsession of mystics and architects, it's the blueprint of resonance. From the spiral of galaxies to the structure of DNA, from the sound waves that shape matter in cymatic experiments to the vibrational design of ancient temples. There's a rhythm to truth. And the holographic mind, that field of consciousness beyond the skull, recognizes these rhythms, not by deduction, but by resonance. That is what intuition is. Harmonic recognition. Rupert Sheldrake's concept of morphic resonance suggests that information doesn't move through time in a straight line. It echoes across the field. And when your mind is attuned to a frequency that matches what has already been patterned in the field, you experience a flash of inner knowing. Like when you walk into a room and feel something's off, even though nothing looks wrong, or when a musical phrase gives you goosebumps. These are not emotional quirks, they're field responses to pattern coherence. David Bohm believed that the underlying structure of reality was non-local and enfolded, meaning the totality of the universe is encoded in every part of it. The part of you that intuits something is tapping into the whole, not by effort, but by structure. In other words, intuition is not superstition. It's a biological antenna attuning to the geometry of reality. And there's a reason this feels so powerful. Because the field, the Akasha, the 0-point sea of memory, isn't made of language. It's made of pattern. It doesn't speak in sentences, it speaks in form. That's why numbers, symbols, mandalas, and dreams bypass logic and strike straight into the core of being. They're formatted for a geometric interface, like software designed for your deeper mind. Massimo Citro's work shows that information can be transferred biologically through waves. That means your cells might respond to harmonics before your conscious mind catches up. Lynne McTaggart's studies on intention show that coherence among hearts and minds increases effectiveness. Why? Because coherence is geometry. This is why synchronicities happen. It's not magic. It's not coincidence. It's geometry, resonance, recognition of repeating patterns in the fractal mind field. You're not just thinking, you're tuning in. And when the frequency matches the field, you just know. The mirror that remembers infinity. You've come this far not just listening, but remembering. Because deep down, something in you already knows you are not your thoughts, your memories, your identity. You are the mirror that reflects it all, the witness behind the story. But what if this mirror doesn't simply observe? What if it reflects something far more ancient and vast than a single human life? Consciousness isn't local. It's not confined to neurons or blood flow. The holographic mind means that the whole is embedded in every part, and that includes you. You are a microcosm of the macrocosm, an echo of a geometry so vast, it loops through all things. When you look within, you're not looking at yourself. You're looking at the field remembering itself through you. The Akashic traditions, from the Vedas to the mystics of the Middle Ages, whispered the same truth. The universe stores every thought, every feeling, every intention. But it doesn't just store, it interacts. The Akasha is alive, and your mind is not just accessing it, it's helping shape it. You are both receiver and projector, both sculptor and sculpture. Rupert Sheldrake showed that new behaviors become easier as more beings repeat them. What does that say about you? That the moment you change, you contribute to the morphic field. The moment you heal more than yourself. David Bohm called it the implicate order, a dimension where everything is enfolded into everything else, where separation is illusion. So when you gaze at the world, you're not seeing from the outside. You're seeing through the lens of infinity, looking back at itself. This is the forgotten mirror, the one no one told you about, the one you were always holding. You are not just remembering this knowledge, you are the memory, the quantum field, the Akasha, the morphic resonance. These aren't abstract theories, they're mirrors, and now you've looked into them, now you've seen that the mind isn't locked in the skull. That thought travels, that emotion sculpts, that language codes, that geometry reveals. And now the question isn't what is the mind, it's what will you do with it? Because if the field is programmable, if intention shapes information, if emotion carries geometry, then the next step is no longer passive understanding, it is conscious creation, which is why in the next episode we're going deeper. We'll ask, can you hack the field? Can you code your reality using symbol, emotion, and will? Can you align with the source blueprint that heals, creates, and remembers itself through you? You've seen the map. Next, we'll walk the path. The field is listening.